What's going on, guys? It's Gordon, the Power Sports Tech, and in today's video we are going to continue the teardown on this Evinrude 9.9. So I'll bring you in closer and we'll get started. Okay, so if you watched the last video, we took the Powerhead off of the midsection and we got it on the bench. At the end of that video, I had still, the motor was still tipped on its side because the exhaust tube and the bearing seal were still attached. Since then, I took them off just so that it would sit flat. It's just 3 bolts to hold them on. So I was wrong. This actually isn't really a bearing carrier. It's more of just a crankcase seal. I do have new seals to replace this, so we'll do that when we're doing the reassembly. And here's the exhaust tube, so I have that off as well. They're pretty easy to get off. It's just 3 bolts for the bearing seal and then 4 bolts for that tube. There was one that was a little stuck, but just take your time and they'll generally come off no problem. So yeah, so we're going to continue on here. I did film this once already. But the quality didn't really turn out to what I wanted, so just kind of threw this back together real quick. And yeah, so we'll continue on. So we'll start off by taking off this armature plate. Then I'm going to take the intake manifold off. That way we can flip this whole thing upright and we can take the head off and get a better look at what the cylinders are. So we'll start off by taking this armature plate off. So like I said, I've already had these bolts out, but it's just a bunch of Phillips head screws. So take all of these off. Now before you lift this, there is a cam in here for the timing, which I actually just pushed down. I didn't mean to do that. There is a cam that needs to come off, so that's keyed in place, so you can use just a flat screwdriver, and if you come underneath of the trigger coil, you can kind of pry up on it. Just be careful. You can pry up a little bit, and then you can just kind of wiggle it out of here. It shouldn't really be in there too tight, but you know how it goes, sometimes it is. So once you get that up, the cam will come off and you can kind of see, hopefully if that focuses, there is a mark on it right here that's a set. So we'll go through that when you're setting the points up. So we'll set that aside, and that'll now let us lift up this whole armature plate. So the wiring for it does run through a few of these clips that you just bend out of the way. And then this should just lift out of place like so, and you can set that aside. Underneath of that we have a plastic, or I think it's probably like a Delrin plastic, I'm not sure what it's made out of, bushing. So that that just spreads, and then you can kind of lift it out of the groove, just like so. So that comes out. This one's covered in oil. So you can kind of see here now, and I mentioned it in the last video, you can kind of see how much oil is all over everything. Part of that's probably from when they put that bushing in there that we just took out, but there shouldn't be this much in here, and it's black. So that tells me that it's basically exhaust, or it's unburnt oil that's been mixed with gas. And you can kind of see around this crank seal too that there's just a whole bunch of stuff built up here, a whole bunch of oil. So I know this has been leaking, so it's due for seals anyway. That's part of the reason why I'm just going to tear the whole thing down. Plus I want to know what the inside looks like, and that way I know what I have. So to get this next plate off, it's 4 flathead screws, and they were very tight when I took them out, so just be careful of that. It is handy to have a impact driver, a manual impact driver. Just a manual impact driver like that. So we'll take these out, these 4 screws, and I'm gonna just make a note. There's a number 1 stamped on this plate. It faces the starter bracket. So this plate lifts off. Set that aside. And now we can lift off this bottom plate, which just has 1 ground wire. Next we're gonna take off this intake manifold. 3 bolts up top, and 3 bolts kind of at the bottom of it, and 1 in the middle. see if I can crack this loose by giving it a little bit of a tap. Now let's see if we can lift this off of here. So now this will kind of let us flip this on its side. These are the reeds right here. Just gonna put that down so I don't get any dirt in those reeds. Okay, so now we can start taking the head off. 6 bolts holding the head on. I'll see if they can just come off, and then maybe the whole head will just come off, because I don't want to screw up all these brackets. So we'll do that real quick. So I'm going to do this in a crisscross pattern, working my way from the outside. And same thing that I did with the intake manifold, we'll just give this a little tap. That'll let us lift this off. Now, this motor ran. I really hope that it's not blown up, but it did run. We just had that seal that was leaking that I could tell from the outside. I think the compression was around 120, but I could be wrong. So, moment of truth. Okay, well, the domes look good. Okay, so these look good. Typical buildup. The water jacket even looks pretty clean. So that's a good sign. We do have some slight scoring, unfortunately. I can't really feel it with a fingernail though. We might be able to get away with just a hone. Can't feel it with my fingernail. It's there, I can see it, but I can't feel it with my fingernail. And obviously we'll have to see what the pistons look like. I think we'll get away with just honing and then a new set of rings. Okay, so there is the bottom cylinder. You can kind of see where there's some scoring just above those 2 ports right there. But again, I can't feel it with my fingernail. So I think we might be able to get away with a hone and some new rings. And the other one, sort of the same thing. These ones aren't even as bad as that other cylinder. Other than that, they look pretty good. So we'll just move that so that they're both kind of at the same spot. And we've got another 6 bolts. Yeah, 6 bolts. Looks like the bottom, or the top 2, you'll have to use a wrench on. There we go. Okay, so that gasket was really seated. Alright, we'll just move this out of the way here. Okay, so that lets us take off see that? And the other one's the same. So I'll have to take a better look at that once we get the crank and all of that out of here, which we might as well do next. So we'll put this back so they're in the middle. So we'll flip this up. Now I could take off this water jacket, which I might once we get this out of the way. I kind of want to split this first. So we got like 5 3/8 bolts and then a couple 7/16. Same thing we're going to do from the outside in. Small mallet or hammer. There we go. Okay, so there is a little bit of a shoulder right here next to this bolt. If you can see that. Just pry right here on this reed plate and then just carefully kind of take it off. The reeds look pretty good, they're clean, so that's a good sign. So yeah, we got a 3/8 bolt and a 7/16 bolt in there, so we'll do the 3/8 first just because I have it on hand. And the 7/16. Okay. Now hopefully this should come apart. There we go. So try and lift that up as straight as you can when you're doing this. There are dowel pins There is at least one here. The pistons have to come out the top side because the actual cylinder bore isn't all the way down through here. So just crack them loose first. You always want to keep the rod caps together, and you can see there's bearings in there too, needle bearings, because I think there's actually two halves. Yeah, there is. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put that back on real quick, just like that, and just put a line on that one. Okay, so I got some Ziploc bags, so we're just going to label these. Just take these bolts out and take this cap off. And it looks pretty good as well. Yeah, there's slight wear on those. So we'll keep it all together for now. Obviously, it's going to be kind of hard to get parts due to the whole COVID-19 deal that's going on right now. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you're staying safe and you're self-isolating. Obviously, I am. That's why I have time to film this video. But, okay, so now we can lift the crank out. Here, just wiggle that out. Now we can really see what these bearings are like. Yep, so that one's held on with a snap ring. You can see it there. This center one is held on. It's two pieces like those bearings are there, but there's a circlip that's in here that holds the two halves together. You can kind of see how I can move that. They're two halves. So I'll leave that on for now. So we'll get these pistons out. And let's take a look here. They kind of look like they just have regular wear. I don't feel a lot of play in that bearing. There's a little bit, but that seems pretty typical to me for a two-stroke piston. I don't know, these rings just don't seem right to me, but I think either way I'm going to do new rings. We just have to see if the pistons are still good. Get out this bottom one. I think the bottom one was the one that had that the worst amount of scoring in it. Also, just as a note, be careful when you're taking these out not to rotate them, because you don't want these rings. See how there's a gap in the ring? You don't want to rotate it to a point where that will hit a port, any of the transfer ports, because if they do, that's going to be a bad day trying to get that out, because what happens is they're like this when they're inside the cylinder, but if you hit a port where it's open, it'll allow it to come out just a hair more, and then this lip is going to catch the port and you won't be able to take it out. So just keep that in mind. Just push them out nice and straight. I don't know what this mark is that's on here. I can't feel it with my fingernail. But there are a couple decent size pits. Like right there. And there's another one there. So there's definitely some wear on this. I haven't priced out pistons. I imagine they're probably fairly expensive. Maybe I can get a set somewhere online. I'll have to do some research. But again, doesn't feel like there's a lot of play in that rod, so that's a good thing. I don't see any obvious score marks though to really match what was in that cylinder. There's a couple lines here, but they don't transfer through onto the rings. I mean, that one does a little bit, but I don't think it's... Yeah, I can't feel it. But again, I'd be getting new rings anyway. Okay, so we'll just keep that in mind. Now that we have the pistons out of the way, we can probably take a little bit of a better look at these cylinders. Typically though, what we already looked at will be where there's going to be any wear, because the pistons don't go down any further than what we could see. So there shouldn't be anything really in there, but we'll just, now that we have it apart, I think we're going to be okay with just honing these for a new set of rings. Obviously we will check the we'll check both cylinders for out of round. I'll have to see if I can find either a set of T gauges or a micrometer, because I don't own a set, so I'll have to try and find a way to do that. So the only thing that's left on the block now is just this this water jacket here. So same as before, we'll take them out from the inside out, or from the outside in, sorry. Let's see how we can get this apart. So it looks like there might be two plates here. So right here there is a little bit of an indent that you can probably get a screwdriver in. Again, as always, be careful with it. There we go. Okay, so now you can see the nice mess of parts on the bench. So we have this thing completely apart. So where do we go from here? Well, I need to figure out if these cylinders are still in spec or if I'm going to have it sent and oversized. Same with the pistons. I'll have to look into that. I have the manual so I can read through all of this and find out. And then once I determine what I can do, if I can use it the way it is with just a light hone, then we're going right into the cleaning part of it, which you might not see that. I mean, I can try and see if I can bring some stuff home for cleaning up the gasket materials. I mean, I can usually do that with just a knife and maybe like a I don't have a bench grinder, so I can't use like a wire wheel or anything on some of these, but I do have some small wire wheel attachments for like hand drills and that at work, so I can use that on some of the surfaces. You just have to be careful because stuff like this, you want it to have the flattest surface possible so that you get a good mate when you put a new gasket on. But yeah, so obviously I'm going to have to clean this up best I can and then take it into work, give it a Varsol bath, just so we can really clean this up. I know I was talking earlier about heat and how I didn't see any marks, but I'm starting to wonder if this red that's all over this is from heat. And it's very possible. Because there is red marks everywhere, but I don't know if that's from heat or if that's just something that's been sprayed on this at some point. That's weird. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the teardown. Okay guys, so that's it for this video. As you can see, we have the teardown pretty much complete for the engine. I will do another whole video on doing the midsection and all of that, because I do need to tear the gearbox apart, but that's going to be in a completely separate part. I just want to get this working first because the gearbox can be done afterwards. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button and tick that little bell notification, so that way it will notify you every time I release a new video in the series. And we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.